Bryce Young's career. You need 10. Play clock at 4. From the pocket. Launching downfield. Underthrown and intercepted. Keely Ringo has an escort down the sidelines. All the way to the end zone. And Georgia is going to conquer the Crimson Tide. Tremendous throw and catch. And then the pick six to seal it. And one more play for the Georgia defense. Georgia on the mountaintop. Demons be gone, and the drought is over. National.
All right. Hello, everybody. Today is Friday, January 14th, and the Muffed Punt Podcast crew is back. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Awesome.
Awesome. Matthew, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm ready to get into it. I think it's going to be a great episode today.
I hope so. So, on the recording, if you're just listening, you should be able to hear Nestler a little bit. But those were the pick six that sealed it, and the last play, Nolan Smith getting the sack to shut it down. And Georgia has finally conquered their demons, or Kirby Smart really has conquered his demons, as the Georgia Bulldogs beat the Alabama Crimson Tide. Basically, in what you could come down to was basically just a quarter game, was the fourth quarter, and Georgia dominated it. As a Northerner, as a guy, like, I think a lot of people up here are like, well, it's just the same, it's an SEC. I think it's different. I think it's refreshing. It's new blood. Yeah, so we're going to get into recapping the national championship game. How were you guys watching it? How was your experience watching it? Matthew, our SEC guy, we'll start with you, man.
Yeah, this time I just decided, it was going to be at home, and didn't do much for it. But I will say I did not notice really the crowd noise in that stadium until we listened to that video. And I pretty openly knocked that it was going to be in Indianapolis this year. I didn't think that was a good idea. And I think I was wrong. I think they did a spectacular job. Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, also at home, watched it with my dad. We're kind of still trying to play it safe with the COVID because we just had.
Oh, yeah. Matt is back, COVID-free, hopefully. But Matt is back COVID-free, so we're happy that you're back. But yeah, it was a great game. Obviously, we're going to cover all the game here in a minute. We're also give our Muffed Punt Awards and get into some recruiting as well, the transfer portal, a little bit of the coaching carousel. We'll look at our top 10s for 22-23, and obviously get into a little bit of the draft stuff because that's the next big thing other than the combine coming up for football. So before we get into it, I do have a trivia question. You might get this one. All right. Before the season, Northwestern had the most losses in college football history. However, this season, they were eclipsed in the most losses category by another Big Ten team. Who is that team that now holds the record for most losses all time in college football? I said it's a Big Ten team. All right, you got 5 seconds, and I'm going to you, Matthew, then to you, Matt. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Matthew.
My best guess is Indiana.
Matt.
Damn, that's what I was going to say because they had.
That's good. That's good. It is correct.
Okay.
It is. Okay. Indiana overtook Northwestern as the worst losses. I mean, it's not like they have a bad record, but it's like 460 to like 600. It is funny if you ever do want to see some funny things. Just go look up all-time like wins and just some of the new schools that are on there. There are some of the old schools that never came to fruition. Kind of that. It's very interesting. But I'm happy you guys got that one right. And the season on a nice trivia note as well. But all right, let's get into the national championship game. Matthew, I'm going to kind of just open it up with you, man. You're our SEC guy. Obviously, it was a great game. But what did you think of everything? yeah, just kind of everything. What take us? What was going through your head? What go through your world? How was it?
Yeah. Just my entirely honest observation was I thought Alabama looked like they were going to win the game for probably the first 3 quarters or so. Will Anderson, and I saw that you put this in the outline, Will Anderson really was nowhere to be found. But Christian Harris and Dallas Turner were both able to step up and put a ton of pressure on Stetson Bennett. And I thought that was going to spell the end of the game. And then slowly but surely, it kind of felt like Georgia was trying to steal it. And before you knew it, they didn't even have to steal it. They were just going to win it outright. So I was surprised. I was impressed. I think Alabama played their best football in the first half. And I think they just maybe slowed down a little.
It almost seemed like me that game where when you play Alabama, like you usually like good teams can stay close, but then there comes a point where it's almost like you're backed up against a cliff, and Alabama just kicks you off of it like Sparta, and that's just how they like go on a 24-0 scoreless run or something like that. It's almost like Georgia just stood on like they just could not budge from that, then eventually started fighting back. Stetson Bennett had to be the first their first possession. Like Georgia fans probably just wanted to go and hide. He fumbled the ball, like he couldn't get his handle on the ball. And then that's all. Everyone started coming out saying they should play JT Murray or JT Daniels. We'll get to him a little bit later. But yeah, Stetson Bennett was huge, and yeah, it was a great atmosphere. It looked like at least. Matthew, what were your big thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, I felt a little bit different early on. I just felt like it felt different than the SEC championship game. Their defense just felt like they were actually making Bryce Young uncomfortable, and it just felt like they were going to hang around no matter how much their offense struggled. It felt like they were going to be in the game, and I'm not going to lie, I was one of the throw JT Daniels in the game. I kept doubting him too, but hey, he proved me wrong. So
and he proves everyone wrong. I like the Kurt Warner movie just came out over like because someone's going to make this. This is 100% going to be a movie or a book in the future, probably in the short future, because he gets the SEC championship game, tries to beat his demon there, can't do it there, he wins. Two things I kind of take. One thing I'll take away, and this kind of goes to Will Anderson. I think, and I've seen it over the years with like the Ohio State guys too, because Bosa never really played that well in the playoff games, and neither did Chase Young. I mean, he was okay, but Chase Young's good year. I don't even think they made the playoffs. But whatever it is. I think when teams, like especially very good teams, have basically a month to obviously, they prep for their semifinal game, but probably about 20 days in, you're kind of already prepped for your semifinal game and you start looking future to the opponents. I think it's easier to game plan against a very good college defensive end is you just either run at him or like just double team him. I think those are the options. And I just think that like I said, the Bosas we have never seen like a dominant edge rusher just really own a playoff game. So, Matt, when we talked about it, Hutchinson was nowhere to be found against Georgia as well. So, for whatever reason, the defensive ends and the pass rushers, I feel like they just don't like. No one has really exploded off the TV screen in any of the playoffs that I've seen for the most part. But yeah, Will Anderson wasn't there. I'll kind of go to you, Matt. Obviously the injury to Jameson Williams changed the entire game. Do you think Alabama wins if Williams stays in the game?
So I just think that their coverage was locked down like the whole second half. It's hard to imagine Jameson Williams wouldn't have gotten open at least a few times down the field. So it could have definitely broke open the game for Bama. But I don't know. It's tough to say because their coverage was really tight the whole second half.
Yeah. Sorry, Matthew. I meant to go to you first. I said the wrong name. Sorry. You gave a great take too, Matt. Don't worry. But yeah. What are your thoughts on Williams? Because I'll say I don't think his draft stock is going to be really hurt at all. But we'll see. So Matthew, what did you think?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, Matt summed it up really well. The only thing I would add is I remember in the beginning of the fourth quarter, Georgia ripped off that huge run, which kind of changed the tide of the game. And seeing how easily open Jameson Williams was able to get when he was playing, I really thought they were going to dedicate a lot of attention to him. And I really don't think their game plan changed when Jameson went out. I think if he stays in the game, maybe a couple of those momentum makers go Alabama's way. And I don't know that they win the game, but maybe we just get a closer one.
Yeah. But it was clear when Bryce Young was out there without Williams and Mechie, who we didn't notice it as much in the semifinal game because, I mean, realistically, Alabama and Cincinnati, they're really not on the same level. Like probably 95 times out of 100, Alabama was going to beat Cincinnati. So they were just two different things. But yeah, I mean, you could just tell Bryce Young just did not have the rhythm with Corey Brooks and anyone else out there. Letu, guy who got the touchdown, he's been kind of his go-to guy all year when he's in trouble. So they got it to him. And then Brian Robinson, I think we said it after the Cincinnati game. We're like, yeah, they're going to try and run Brian Robinson a lot, but this isn't Cincinnati they're going to be running against. It's Jordan Davis and all these guys. The whole story about Stetson Bennett, Matthew, I have to give you credit. I give myself a little bit of credit because I wavered, but you've been always on Stetson Bennett. So I guess my question is, with all the transfer portal and everything now, you see guys going. Do you think we'll ever see a walk-on quarterback ever win another national championship again? Because I don't. I don't.
No, I certainly don't think so either. I think that's gone.
Yeah, so I thought that was very, very special, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know his whole background, that he was a Georgia. Well, I knew he was a Georgia kid, but he then went to junior college, came back. So I'm happy that Kirby Smart stuck with him. And Matt, I guess I'll ask you this question: what do you do now if you're JT Daniels?
I don't know. At this point, he'd probably have to stay because he wouldn't be able to transfer until he graduates. I don't know if he's going to be able to graduate before this upcoming season. Probably just got to stay and compete, but I don't know that he's going to be able to get the starting job.
Well, and the thing is if you look at if you just look at the play, like the field right now, Georgia and Alabama are both going to be very good again next year. Like, I think Georgia's going to lose a lot more of their key players. Alabama should run the table probably through the SEC championship next year. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on them with basically what we all kind of agree is two Heisman finalists returning. So they're going to be set up. But if you now look at guys like Jackson Dart is out at USC. Does Caleb Williams think about going to Georgia? Because I think a lot of these guys that are in the portal, still in the portal, or even are just entering, they're like, wait, I could go to Georgia and win another national title because their defense is going to be so good. So yeah, I don't know what JT Daniels does. I think this is, and we'll talk to it in a little bit when I get to it in the transfer portal. But I think this is one of the bad sides of the transfer portal, where guys are just able to switch so easily and things like that. Where what is JT like? What do you do if you're JT Daniels? Like, I don't know. It's just weird. It's weird. But I'm very happy for Stetson Bennett. Matthew, if you were to gauge the country, do you think people were happy with the outcome, or more kind of it's whatever, it's the SEC?
A little bit of both. I mean, I'm sure certainly people were happy to not see Alabama win again. But I don't imagine this was quite the breath of fresh air that it should have been for someone to win their first national championship since 1980.
Yeah, I will also say this, that if Michigan had been in the national title game, the entire country would have been rooting for Michigan, and I would not have been, because I hate Harbaugh and I hate Michigan. So, but they would, that would have been like a huge thing throughout the country, is just rooting for Michigan. But yeah, I agree. I think, I don't know. I'm happy that Georgia won. I mean, if you look at it, it's new blood. It's new blood. I mean, you got your Clemson, Ohio State, and Alabama, and then LSU won championship. Now you got Georgia won championship. So it'll be interesting going forward. And yeah, I don't know if I had anything else on the game really. I felt bad for Bryce Young. I mean, he's going to be really, really, really good, and already is really, really good. But it's clear that and this may be true of like quarterbacks at all these elite schools, like CJ Stroud at Ohio State, that they look great because they are really great as well, but they also have a lot of great people around them, and I think that often gets taken for granted. So when you lose your top 2 wide receivers, that's going to affect any quarterback in the long run anyway. So if you guys have anything else on the national championship, you can go to our top 10s. I don't know. The last thing I'll say is, like I said, I'm happy it's Georgia. I don't think Georgia has a huge chance to win next year. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Alabama to win it. And I will say this: I'm not sick of Alabama yet, but it's coming to a point where we're getting close to about 15, 16 years now where they've been like winning a championship every other year. It's almost like Tom Brady, but like at some point this has to stop. Like at some point it has to stop. Like we cannot just be handing a national title trophy to Alabama every other year. But I don't know. Nick Saban can coach till he's 100. He would probably just be up in the box in a wheelchair.
I will say Nick Saban definitely looked a little bit less agitated after this loss than most.
I was gonna bring that up. I Matthew, I don't know what you thought about it, but I think he was almost like, because we've seen him get the national championship trophy, and he's kind of just like, whatever. Like even the game before the semifinal, he was like, whatever. I honestly think that he was like, inside of him was like happy. He's like, okay, Kirby beat me finally once. Now we know he's a good coach. Like I honestly think he was genuinely happy for him. What did you think, Matthew?
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's worth pointing out, obviously, Jimbo Fisher earlier in the season was the first former Saban assistant to beat Saban. But now Kirby has been the first one to do it in his staff at Alabama. And so I think in a strange way, it does kind of take off a little pressure for Saban. Both, I guess another way of looking at it is he dropped almost all of his records this year because there was the record against unranked opponents and both the assistant things. But I
saw a graphic on that the other day. It's funny. Go ahead. Sorry.
But I think we're just seeing kind of, and I don't know exactly how to sum it up, but there's obviously that pressure after being the national champion, building back to the next year. And I think he's at a spot where he could say, hey, I'm at the top of the sport, but also look at these things that I've helped grow around me. And I think in a way he felt responsible even for Georgia being in a position to win a national championship.
I feel like he's gotten to a point in his life where he's a little older now, and these guys that are beating him, they're almost like his grandkids, and he's like, oh, that's good. Okay, you finally got it done. So, and if that's going to be Nick Saban every other year, you know what? I'll take it. He can win a championship one year, and then like the next, who knows? Alabama might just purposely be losing to some of these guys. Who knows? At some point, I just will say this. At some point in the next like 40 years, this has to slow down for a little bit. Like Alabama, just like maybe just go away for 1 year, and then you can win all the other national titles. Just go away for 1 year. But yeah, it was refreshing to see Georgia. So pretty simple. End of the year top 10s. I got mine right here. I'll read it off, and then we'll go to your guys. I got Georgia number 1, Alabama 2, Cincy 3, Ohio State 4, Michigan 5, Baylor 6, Oklahoma State 7, Notre Dame 8. Utah at 9 and Michigan State at 10. Matthew, we'll go with you. What's your final top 10?
I know people are listening to this on podcast, but I'm smiling right now because
I know you are.
I made a point to not look at what your rankings were because I didn't want to be like influenced by you. And This worked out great because mine are identical except for one small change, which you are going to absolutely hate. I have number 1, Georgia, number 2, Bama, number 3, Cincinnati, number 4, Michigan, number 5, Ohio State, number 6, Baylor, 7, Oklahoma State, 8, Notre Dame, 9, Utah, 10 is Michigan State. So all I did was flip Michigan and Ohio State.
And that's probably like yours is probably the correct one. I'm just still going to my grave, I'm going to keep saying that if it doesn't snow in Ann Arbor, Michigan doesn't win that game. So I don't need any more validation or whatever. That's just what it is. But I think that, like I said, yours is probably correct. That's more unanimous, I would think. Matt, what about you, man?
All right. Number 1, I got Georgia.
I'll get to it. I'll get to
1
it. Sorry.
Georgia, 2 Bama, 3 Cincy, 4 Michigan, 5 Ohio State, 6 Baylor, 7 Oklahoma State, 8 Notre Dame. I had 9 Ole Miss and 10 Michigan State.
Okay. So we both.
I slid Utah down.
You just didn't have Utah in. And I don't really know why I slid Utah in. Maybe it was just because it was such a good game. But they looked good against Ohio State.
They did,
But then again, Ohio State's defense is like, it's incredible to me that offense at Ohio State was one of the best offenses we've seen all time, probably. And they didn't get to the playoff because the defense was so bad.
Yeah. I struggled with putting a 4-loss team in the top 10. That was I looked at their overall because they lost those games early, and I was like, Ole Miss, if they didn't lose Matt Corral, they probably could have beaten Baylor. So
yeah, and we'll get to Matt Corral a little bit too when we get into the draft. But like I said, I think everyone's kind of locked in the top 5 really. So we'll get to our top 10s for next year. But let's get into a little bit, not necessarily off-season stuff yet, but just some college football news. Noah Kane, running back at Penn State, is transferring to LSU, and this happened very quickly, I believe, because I think he entered the transfer portal yesterday, and today there was a report that he's already going to LSU. So he's going to LSU. I am not concerned about Penn State because I don't really care about Penn State, but I don't know. They have a good class coming in, but James Franklin better do something quick because he's going to find himself on the way out of there, I think. This guy so we talked about the portal earlier. So Bru Mccoy, I think he was 2 classes ago. He was a 5-star. And I believe he's almost like Eric Gilbert. He's like gone to 3 different schools in 3 years. He's transferring again. He entered the transfer portal again. And it almost just becomes at this point, like, I guess I don't know how to phrase it. It's like maybe at some point you're just not good enough. Like, go to a smaller school. Stop going from USC to Texas. Just go to a smaller school. So I hate seeing kids do this, even though I've said many times that I would do the exact same thing, except I would lay out why I was doing it. I would want Adidas, Jordan, Nike, and Under Armour. I want all 4 of them. But yeah, I thought that I just don't like that from the transfer portal. Whatever. Brendan Armstrong, the quarterback for Virginia, is coming back. He'll be a 5th-year guy, and Virginia could be formidable next year. Now that Tony Elliott is there, If we, we'll obviously get into it more in the offseason, and I'll ask you guys how you guys think about this. I don't know if Dabo's going to be at Clemson next year. I'm still he probably will. I think we learned a lot about Dabo this year because if Dabo goes out this year and has like a mediocre or even like a 1 or 2 loss season, and then he's got his guy Tony Bennett or whatever his name is at Virginia, and they go like 7-3 or something like that, and then Oklahoma they go like 11-1. I think you're going to see that maybe his coordinators propped him up a little bit higher than he was supposed to be. But I'm still hoping he goes to the NFL. So who knows? Odd move, Matthew. Maybe you know more about this. Lane Kiffin hired his brother to be the co-defensive coordinator.
I wish I could make some sense out of it.
I saw it. I saw it. Well, let's be honest. His brother probably is just another. He's labeled a co-defensive coordinator. He's probably just another co-offensive coordinator because they don't play defense down there. But yeah, this also, which is really kind of weird, makes me think that Lane Kiffin is like getting a power trip by bringing his brother in to be the co-defensive coordinator so he can just fire him next year. I don't know. It was very weird. Because I looked at the article, and I guess his brother had coached with him at like another place like a couple of years. Very odd. But hey, Lane's gonna Lane. He's gonna do what he wants. BC's Kurt Signetti is likely to be Pitt's new offensive coordinator, which brings up an interesting question. I think obviously Pitt is not a powerhouse, but Kenny Pickett showed that if you have the right quarterback, they can be pretty good. I kind of think we're going to see a nice little grace period for Pitt here because now they got Keaton Slovis.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see Pitt be like near the top of the ACC and challenge and contend with Clemson, hopefully for the next 3 to 4 years at least, which brings in some new blood as well. So I like that. Yeah. And then obviously the biggest news, and this is kind of the transfer portal. Caleb Williams and Jackson Dart are both in the transfer portal. This is like I like it because I think it's awesome. I'm not a coach. It is getting kind of crazy, the transfer portal already. I'll just say that. Like I said, I love it because it's entertaining, but it's getting kind of crazy. I'll start with you, Matt. Some potential landing spots for these guys. For Caleb Williams, obviously USC, Clemson. I doubt Ole Miss. A&M or Maryland because he's from Maryland. And then for Dart, Oklahoma, BYU, UCLA, possibly Georgia, and possibly Ohio State. Where do you think those two end up, Matt?
Yeah, so I was looking at my phone the day that Dart entered the portal, and I saw a notification like an hour before that came out, and 2 portal crystal ball predictions came up for Caleb Williams to USC, and I was like, with Dart there, and then an hour later I see Dart's in the portal. So that looks like the most obvious one. The only other one I would guess would probably be Georgia, but I think he ends up at USC. Dart, I don't really feel like there's very many options. I wrote down Ole Miss, Georgia, and I put a sleeper in LSU because I feel like they really haven't replaced Max Johnson yet.
Yeah. What about you, Matthew?
Caleb Williams, it's pretty cut and dry. I'm guessing it's going to be USC. Maybe it'd be a little fun to see him go to Clemson and see Clemson and South Carolina be Caleb Williams and Spencer Rattler. But
I didn't even think about that. That would be incredible.
It's most likely going to be USC, so don't get your hopes up. But,
yeah. Okay. Before I let us get to Jackson Dart, Caleb Williams was a true freshman this year. He's got 2 more years of eligibility. Obviously, with the transfer portal and everything, I get it. But Lane Kiffin's also bringing in Malachi Nelson after this year. So, I guess that works out. I guess he could be sit for a year. I don't know. I guess so. But, yeah, I agree. I don't know why they just didn't announce it together. I don't know why Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams were just like, yeah, we're leaving for USC. I mean, as soon as he went out there, and they hired Brent Venables, there was no way Caleb Williams was staying there. But back to you, Matt. So you said USC. What about Dart?
Dart, I was reading earlier today, and I wish I could remember the name and how it happened and how specific it was. I know he's got a connection with one of the coaches at TCU. And so that's something that a lot of people have been looking at. So I've been keeping an eye on that, and I've also got Ole Miss on here for Dart, not for Williams. I think it'd be a really fun fit. I'd like to see what happens. But Ole Miss, I always talk about whenever anyone's going to transfer because practically watching anybody step onto that team would probably be ridiculously cool to see.
Yeah, no, if Lane Kiffin could, in the same offseason, or the same 2 off seasons, hire his brother as co-defensive coordinator, have a bridge quarterback for this year being Jackson Dart to next year getting Arch Manning. So we'll see. We'll see. So I'm going to be a little off topic for a second. Have any of you guys watched Arch Manning's highlights?
Just a little bit. Not a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think he's that good. And I understand that I think he goes to like a very nice prep school in Louisiana. So he's obviously not playing like the city schools and the big school districts, I guess. But like some of these guys that he's playing against, like I'm not kidding, like they look like middle schoolers. So that's just something to keep an eye on. I don't know, but it was very odd watching him. Like it was just almost like watching slow motion. It was very odd. Jackson Dart. I don't think he's Mormon, but BYU is listed in like every site I looked at. I guess I still don't know. Do you have to be Mormon to go to BYU?
I have no idea.
I think there's like an exemption for like the football team because I looked that up when I found out Zach Wilson wasn't Mormon.
All right, I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, I think like if you're involved in like athletics or something, they just take anyone.
All right, yeah, absolutely. BYU is owned by the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. It is possible for a non-Mormon to attend. However, students are required to take at least 3 credits of religious classes per semester in order to graduate. Oh my God, I would never go there. Actually, religious history is actually somewhat interesting to me, but that's a whole different story. So I like him at BYU. I think because when I first saw him play, the first thing I really connected me to him was Zach Wilson. They're like both kind of gunslingers, sit back there. So I like that. But yeah, I think Oklahoma. Well, I think Oklahoma and Ole Miss would be great spots for him. But with Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma, I don't think he'll go to Oklahoma. But I do think he'd go to Ole Miss. That would be very nice. If I was Kirby Smart, I'd be out recruiting him. Why not? But yeah. So we'll obviously keep tabs on those guys. I would have to think that they have to have like an official announcement for not like tomorrow, but like relatively soon, right? You would think, because they probably have to enroll it. Well, no, the second semester already started, so never mind. I don't know. All right. Let's get into the probably most important college football thing outside of the season, the NFL draft. Matthew, you said you'd be doing a little research, so you're going to participate more in this section. Good. Matt, who you got as your top 10 prospects right now? I got mine.
All right. Number 1 is Thibodeau. 2, Kyle Hamilton. 3, Derek Stingley. 4, Evan Neal. 5, Aiden Hutchinson. 6, DeMarvin Leal. 7, George Karlaftis. 8, Andrew Booth Jr. 9, Tyler Linderbaum. And 10, Nakobe Dean.
Do you happen to have one, Matthew, or no?
I have my top 10 picks, but I don't have my top 10 prospects.
Okay, well, we're going to differ.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to go to picks in a little bit. Who was that? So you hate Hutchinson. Like, I thought I hated Hutchinson. You hate him.
I don't hate him. I just am not a high. All right, get out here. I'm not as high.
What's the cat's name? We have to. What
Marley.
is his name?
There's 2.
Marley?
Yeah, Marley and Beatrice.
Okay, well, now we know. Now they're obviously part-time guests on our show.
Yep. I'm not. I am very iffy on if I even like him as much as Leal and Karlaftis. They're all right there for me, but I don't think he's on the same level as Thibodeau. I don't know why it's actually a thing in the draft community, but
I kind of agree on that. What do you think, Matthew? Well, I guess I'll ask you, Thibodeau or Hutchinson, and then, I don't know, just go wherever you want with it. Name some of your top prospects if you want that we didn't mention or anything.
Yeah, I did touch on it briefly last week on the Thibodeau-Hutchinson thing, and my main takeaway was that even though Hutchinson has more of the things that I'm probably looking for when I look at these guys, I don't feel like his game time experience is worth as much as we kind of think it is. And I would take Thibodeau's physical attributes over what we've seen out of Hutchinson in the latter half of this season. So
yeah, I mean, if we're being honest about Hutchinson, he had 2 or 3 incredible games, and his rest of the season was kind of average. It was above average, but it was kind of average. Yeah, I really don't know how. Like, I think I don't usually pay a ton of attention to the combine. I'm going to this year because I think Hutchinson, from what I understand, what I've read, his measurables are going to be very, very bad. Like, his arm length is like something that it's so small. Like, teams, like, there's a threshold. Teams don't draft defensive linemen that have like this small of arm length. So I'll definitely be paying attention to that. And I agree completely on Thibodeau. It's like when you're looking for a number one pick, to me, almost it's like you just look at a guy and I feel like you can watch. Like I watched Myles Garrett in college, and I was like, yeah, that guy's number one pick. I've watched some of the moves and some of the things that Thibodeau has put on display in his short amount of time, which can be a bad thing, but it can also be a good thing in the long run because he doesn't have much wear and tear on him at all. So I like Thibodeau way more. I guess I'll ask both of you. So I think we're all pretty even. Stingley's the best corner coming out. I believe, Matt, though, you have Andrew Booth above Gardner.
Sauce. Yes, I do.
Why?
Just the competition, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I've seen Andrew Booth, no matter who they play. He's gone against Addison. He's gone against these guys at Wake Forest. I mean, these guys don't really have big games against Clemson, and I think he's the biggest reason why. I think his coverage skills might not be quite as good, but I think he's a better athlete. I don't know. Something about him. I like him more.
I would personally go Gardner next. Matthew, were you going to say something? I would go Gardner next because I do think he's elite. I'm not a fan of Andrew Booth, but I mean he's going to probably be a top 15 pick unless he just bombs at the combine. But yeah, we'll see about that. All right, so if we want to do so, all right, we talked about this over text, but next week I think we're going to do a full first round mock draft where we can take our teams and then we'll figure it out how to split them up the rest of the way around, like every third or whatever. We'll see, and we'll do a full first round mock draft. And it'll be a lot more of the prospects and more of us talking about it. So that will be good. But for now, let's just do a top 10. Matthew, you said you have one. Let's hear it because the draft order is set. And it's a very weird top 10. But Matthew, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm certainly not walking the middle of the line or trying to make anybody happy. This is just how I see it. I've tried to watch tape on as many guys as possible. I haven't gotten to everyone. The ones I haven't gotten to see, I've read about a good bit. But these top 10, I'm pretty familiar with.
You're not watching all 22 all day and night? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So at number 1 overall, I actually have the Jags taking Evan Neal. Even though I think Thibodeau should be a lock for the first round pick, I just think it's so important to the Jags as a franchise right now to make a move, to invest in really what they're starting to build that they really began last year. Number 2 is where I have Thibodeau. I understand it's really nice to see Aiden Hutchinson go to Detroit and stay in Michigan. But if he's still on the board, they're going to have to take him. So 3 is where I have Hutchinson coming in. I don't love this move, but the Texans are stupid, so I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. For the Jets,
that's a great reason. The Texans are the dumbest NFL team in the world. Well, no, I'm not going to get into it. Keep going.
Number 4, I have the Jets taking Ikem Ekwonu. Elijah Vera-Tucker's been great, and Mekhi Becton's going to be back from injury. So to add even another top-tier guy onto that offensive line is going to be incredible. Number 5, the Giants. I have Charles Cross, back-to-back offensive tackles. I'm going to start speeding through these. Number 6 is going to be Kenny Pickett going to the Panthers. Number 7 is where the Giants are picking again. I have them taking George Karlaftis. Number 8 is going to be David Ojabo to the Falcons. Number 9 is Matt Corral to the Broncos. And number 10 is Kyle Hamilton to the Jets.
Okay. That is very interesting. Very interesting point you brought up, but we'll talk about it after we get off everyone's top 10. Corral, then 10 you had Hamilton. All right. Cool. All right. Maddie, let's see what you got, man.
All right. It's definitely a weird year though. You know, seems like usually when you're mocking, everything kind of lines up perfectly. It's totally opposite this year. Like,
yeah, well,
it seems like everyone's a reach almost.
Yeah, well, and the Jets and the Giants. I mean, they just own 2 of the top, like 2 in the top 10. So
yeah,
Do they go offense and defense, or they go full defense offense? Yeah, I got you. All right, go ahead.
All right. Number 1, I got Jags taking Thibodeau. 2, I got Aiden Hutchinson to the Lions, a hometown kid. I think it'll be tough for them to pass up on him. Texans, I don't think it'll happen, but I have them taking Kyle Hamilton because, like Matthew alluded to, they're a dumb organization. Jets, I have taken Derek Stingley. Giants, Evan Neal. Panthers, Kenny Pickett. Giants, George Karlaftis. I have the Falcons taking Andrew Booth Jr., the Broncos taking Matt Corral, and the Jets taking DeMarvin Leal.
All right, cool. Very interesting top 10s for you guys. We'll have some stuff to talk about for sure. All right, mine is I at the top I have the Jags taking Thibodeau as well. 2 Lions taking Hudson as well. Just seems like it's the way they're going to go. And there'll be a lot of pressure on them to draft the Michigan guy. The Texans, I think they're going to go with Evan Neal. Hear me out. I can't even think of his name right now. Davis Mills wasn't terrible at the end of the year this year, and there's really no point if you're the Texans to draft another quarterback that high. So I think they go with Evan Neal or one of the left tackles to kind of maybe just see what you have in Davis Mills this next year, because obviously you're tanking again next year. You probably, if you're the Texans, you're tanking for the rest of your lives, but still. So I think that would be good for them to pick up Neal, and he's huge. Jets, I have Derek Stingley as well. Giants, I do have Kyle Hamilton. I wanted to put Kyle Hamilton at 4 to the Jets, but the Jets were the ones who drafted Jamal Adams, and whether or not they realize that Kyle Hamilton is a very different player than Jamal Adams, they're just dumb enough to just say that, no, we don't even want to look at him. So yeah, 5, Kyle Hamilton, safety. 6, this is where I differ from you guys. 6, I have Matt Corral going to the Panthers. 7, the Giants, the Kobe Dean. 8, the Falcons, DeMarvin Leal. 9, the Broncos, Kenny Pickett. And 10, I think Garrett Wilson from Ohio State goes to the Jets. So I want to go back to, Matthew, your point. Evan Neal. I haven't thought about that before, and I think the Texans are too dumb to do that. But I think drafting a left tackle right out of the gates would help them. The Jags. Sorry, I haven't had anything to drink in a while. My throat is stuffy. If the Jags take Neal, I mean, you basically have your left tackle and your quarterback, who, I mean, hopefully your quarterback for the future. So I actually do like that pick, because as good as Thibodeau and Hutchinson are, I would say they're not as good as either of the Bosa twins or brothers, and probably not Chase Young coming out. Thibodeau might be on the same level explosive-wise as like Chase Young, but I just don't think that Thibodeau or Hutchinson are near the type of athlete that either Chase Smith was or the Bosa brothers were, or Myles Garrett was. And then I have a hard time believing that the Texans are going to take Hamilton, just because they have Justin Reed there already, and he plays free safety. But the Texans are liable to do anything. Like, the Texans are this year's Raiders, where they're going to take who did they take? Cleveland Farrell, like in the pick number 4, and he's like, okay. So yeah, they could choose anyone. Oh yeah. So my point: why do you guys think if 6 is going to be the first pick of quarterback, why do you guys think it's Pickett instead of Corral?
It just seems like that's the way it's going to me. It seems like Kenny Pickett is like the unanimous number 1. When I see talk shows and stuff, it seems like they all think that's where it's going. I personally like Corral just a little bit more, but.
What about you, Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, you guys know that I'm big on Corral, but he has had some injury issues even before opting into the bowl game and getting injured in that game. So I feel like maybe Kenny Pickett is just a safer bet. I think he's probably the most NFL-ready QB in this class. And so I think that's really what Carolina needs.
Yeah, no, I think for sure out of the top 10, I think Carolina is the one spot that we can almost – I mean, well, obviously you see how it goes online, but you almost have to lock in a quarterback because it's going to be Rule's third season, and he really hasn't had a quarterback yet. So maybe if he drafts this guy and they still suck, he'll be like, oh, well, this is my guy. We got to keep going. So I see them for sure. And then where's mine? I think the Falcons are another team that might be in the market for a quarterback. Matt Ryan's going to be the starter next year. They've all came out and said that. Arthur Smith came out and said that. But with how inexperienced these quarterbacks are and how not elite they are compared to other drafts, I think they would be smart to take a quarterback and sit behind Matt Ryan for a year. Because why not? Because once you're down to the 8th pick, I know I'm taking the Marvin Leal, but 8th pick after that, you got Sauce Gardner. There's not a lot of big names outside of the top 10, really. So if the Falcons were going to do it, I would say they should do it this year. And then number 9, the Broncos. John Elway just absolutely loves drafting quarterbacks. He cannot stop drafting quarterbacks. So I think he drafts a quarterback as well. But obviously, I think it's going to change a lot. Matthew, back to yours. I don't think Hamilton falls this far, but I kind of agree with you where he's one of the guys, and I think I talked about this, you, Matt, as well. He's one of the main guys that might slip, and he really shouldn't, but it's just that there are other positions of need, and that in the NFL, safety is not necessarily that important as compared to an edge rusher or an outside linebacker or things like that. So I could see him falling. And I think I said earlier on the show, not earlier on the show, like months ago, I didn't think there would be a quarterback goes in the top 10. I don't think there should be a quarterback that goes in the top 10, but I think 2 go in the top 10. All right. Let's move on to pretty simple. We're going to give our Muffed Punt Award. Each of us will give us the Muffed Punt Award. Basically, who screwed up the whole season the most, who screwed themselves. We'll give each of our the Coach of the Year awards, and then the Why Not Award, player who could have been up for the Heisman, the Doak Walker, things like that, but a team they played on didn't let them be. And then bowl season MVP. And Matthew, I'll start with you. You're I guess you're the only winner. The SEC is the winner, so you can go first.
You just want me to go through all the awards?
No, just go Muffed Punt, then I'll go my Muffed Punt, and then we'll go through them all though. Yeah.
I like that more.
Yep.
So Muffed Punt, I have 2 written here. I'm just going to go with one though. Mine's going to be Dan Mullen. As much as I hate to give it to my
He
team.
froze.
Did we lose him?
We lost him.
That's fine.
Y'all
Matt,
got
you
me
back?
Hello?
Yeah, we're good. Go ahead.
I don't know what happened. Okay, great. So Muffed Punt, it's got to be Dan Mullen. As much as I hate to give it to the former coach of my team, what in the world? There's no explaining. There was no emphasis on recruiting. The kids were eating McDonald's before games. It was a terrible situation, and I'm glad it's over. But that's my pick for who muffed the punt this year.
All right, I like that one. I thought some of these might get a little bit personal. It's kind of why I thought we would do them differently than the other awards. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, so I might have too much of an eye on the NFL draft, but it's got to be Spencer Rattler for me. He had the number 1 pick in his hand to start the year, and he ended up having to be forced out of his job, forced out of Oklahoma, goes to South Carolina. Now he's got to rebuild his stock completely from the ground. So,
yeah, I like that one too. That's a good one. I didn't even think of those. That's a good one. I'm going to go, obviously we said might get personal. I'm just going to go in. I might not ever get to do this again for the next 5 years. So I'm going to take advantage while I have the chance. Dabo Sweeney, just his coaching wasn't good and they weren't good this year, but he just gets the Muffed Punt for all his comments about paying the players, saying he quit if they start paying the players, and how the transfer portal is crazy. And I think finally other coaches around the country are kind of looking at him and be like, yeah, Dabo, shut the fuck up, dude. Just shut up. Like, we all know that we all used to be able to just pay these players under the table and they can come to our schools. Now it's just open, so deal with it. And there's the transfer portal. Yeah, it's a little more work, but instead of going out to Washington and recruiting some 6'5", 17-year quarterback, you go look at the transfer portal and get a bridge QB, blah, blah, blah. So everything he said recently about the changes that I think, and I think we kind of all agree, the changes that should happen in the future, he has just been on the wrong side of everything on that, and I have no sympathy for him. But I will say, you're a great coach, Dabo Sweeney. You should definitely go to the NFL. Preferably the Bears or the Raiders, because you'll probably be one season and out. All right. Which one do I have? Let's go Coach of the Year. Matthew, I started with Matthew last time. Matt, I'll start with you. Who's Coach of the Year?
So I stole yours, but I think it's also Dave Aranda. I think because he won the Big 12, he took their team from, what were they just a year ago? What were they? I don't remember their record, but he completely
they were under 500 last year, I believe.
Yeah.
No, they were under 500 last year. Yeah.
Yeah, to go from there to winning the Big 12, I think it's got to be Dave Aranda.
Yeah, Matthew.
Sam Pittman. This is easy for me. Arkansas, I remember not long ago, was right there with Vanderbilt. Now we're talking about them as not quite contenders, but they're up there in the SEC West. And it's going to be a tough division, but Arkansas has given themselves a fighting chance, and I really liked what I saw him put on the field this year.
That's a great pick as well. I actually really like Treylon Burks. And I think he's going pro. And if the Browns don't get Garrett Wilson, I think I like Treylon Brooks better than Jameson Williams. But that's just right now. But I like Treylon Burks a lot. And yeah, 2 years ago, Arkansas was maybe even last year they were a laughing stock of the SEC, and they finally have come. And finally, it almost feels like they can build on this year because Jefferson's coming back. That's a quarterback, right? His last name is Jefferson. So, yeah, I think I like that pick a lot as well. I went with Dave Aranda. Obviously, with everything that happened, it's happened to Baylor over the past decade. None of it's right. I think they should have got close to the death penalty, but they didn't. And Dave Aranda had nothing to do with that. So him coming here, having a poor season last year because of COVID and whatever the other issues were, and then coming out and winning the Big 12, he's going to be a good coach for a long time, and I think he's the next coach that you see makes a jump to a big program like that. I will also shout out Luke Fickell. I think you're pretty kind of unanimous that everyone thinks you did a great job as well. The only reason I wouldn't give it to him this year, though, is because to get to the playoffs, this was a 2-year journey for Cincinnati. It was 2 years. It took 2 years. It took 2 years. Had Cincinnati not started out in the top 10 or top 5, they probably would not be in the playoffs this year. So he's done a great job in 2 years of getting that team to the playoffs. And hopefully now we're talking about playoff expansion. All right. The Why Not Award. Matthew, I'll start with you, man.
So the Why Not Award, to my understanding, is someone who wasn't quite picked for all like the high caliber stuff, but maybe if they had played on a better team or in that scenario, governance. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'd like to give an honorable mention to Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. Past that, in the college world, I don't have anything written down. I thought I could buy enough time to come up with one, and I haven't. So I'm going to let you guys go first.
All right. I'll start with me. Mine's pretty easy. Bailey Zappi at Western Kentucky. He lit up. I think he had like over 50 touchdowns this year, like under 10 interceptions. I know he won a couple of awards and things like that, but yeah, I liked him a lot, and that would be my. It's more of a why not as well, because we're not going to see that very often in the future anymore as well, because these big time O coordinators are going to move on quickly, move on up. So, all right, what about you, Matt?
Yeah, so I put a couple of running backs down. One I'll give the award to, but the one I wanted to have as an honorable mention was Sean Tucker.
I knew you were going to say that.
But he's not my pick. I went at Group of 5 school. the running back on Central Michigan, Lou Nichols, the third, led the nation in rushing. If he wasn't on such a small school and could have been on a bigger school that had some big games, tough competition, he could have made a case. So
yep, you're 100% right. Yep, absolutely. I like when I looked up the Heisman odds for next year, he's actually they obviously have like they list 50 people, but he was one of the guys listed. I think he was 50,000 to 1, or like 5,000 to 1. I don't know. I like that pick though. He's good. And then bowl season MVP. This is pretty easy for me. Jackson Smith and Jigba. What he did in the Rose Bowl game was insane. I don't think we're going to see many receiving performances like that in the college level for quite some time. I think we will see it again, obviously, but I don't think for quite some time. And I will say out there to anyone who's growing up, you're shorter and you play football, you think you're going to be a slot receiver. All you need to do is study Jackson Smith and Jigba's tape. He is the perfect slot receiver, and I love him. And it stinks because I don't think he'll be a first-round pick. But he was incredible. Matt, go ahead.
All right.
I also could have gone with Marvin Harrison Jr., who had 3 touchdowns. Didn't even know the guy was on the damn team.
I went with Bailey Zappi just to be different, but I think I probably would have been all over Jackson Smith and Jigba as well. But yeah, I went with Bailey Zappi. He had 6 touchdowns, over 400 yards, completed over 70% of his passes. I think he had a fantastic bowl game to close out his season.
Yeah, so basically you just waited around until I said Bailey Zappi last round, and you just said Bailey Zappi.
No.
I'm going to tell you what, when we come back next year, Matt, I'm going to put you in a lot tougher position because you crushed the group of 5 this year. So you're just going to be our group of 5 guy, I think, next year.
Sounds good.
And we're going to need some convincing stats. I need studies done. I would like to actually – oh, and I forgot to mention, I'll bring it up at the end. I do have our final standings for the Pick'em challenge. So I will get to that. But Matthew, did I get your bowl season MVP? I did not. Who is it?
Yeah, I guess I'm the only one going playoffs here. I was going to say Nakobe Dean. I watched him put bruises all over Michigan and then get to Bryce Young in a way that we hadn't really seen anyone been able to do this season. So I've got Nakobe Dean as my bowl season MVP.
I just didn't, like I said, some of these awards are personal, and I just really like slot receivers. But not a ton to say outside of that. I mean, you also could have gone with, Stetson Bennett might be one too, but Nakobe Dean is probably. It would not shock me because I think he's going to test very well. I don't know what his measurables will be. But he's going to test off the charts. Like I think he's going to run a sub 4.40. I think he could go in the top 5. I think he could. I think he's creating a lot of buzz right now. And I as a linebacker, I really like him, and I like him even more because I hate Devin Lloyd of Utah. So he's so much better. All right. What do I got next? All right, so just getting into a little bit next year. We'll go through this pretty quickly. 2022's biggest impact newcomers, whether it be a transfer portal, true freshmen, things like that. Just kind of go through them, list ours off. I'll go with mine first. I didn't know about this, but and then I looked up his numbers. Tanner McAllister from Oklahoma State is transferring to Ohio State and following Jim Knowles. So I'm excited to see an actual defensive player that supposedly knows what he's doing on the Ohio State defense next year. My second one, Brandon Joseph, safety. We talked about him going from Northwestern to Notre Dame. He's very, very, very good. I think Spencer Rattler could either have a really, really big, good impact or a really, really bad impact. So we'll see about that, but it will be an impact. And then a little sneaky one for our friends down in Arkansas. Jayden Hazelwood was the number 1 receiver, I think, 3 years ago. committed to Oklahoma. Hasn't really broken out there. Transferred to Arkansas. That's going to be Jefferson's one of his number one targets this year. I think he's going to be really, really huge for Arkansas. And I think that shows that they're Arkansas as well. Kind of Matthew, like you talked about, they're gaining traction within the SEC. Like no one is really necessarily laughing at them anymore. So, all right, Matthew, what about you?
Yeah, so right off the bat, wherever Caleb Williams goes, he's going to start and he's going to be great. And I don't really love putting someone there who I don't even know where he's going. So I also have Quinn Ewers here. A little less certain about how much he's going to be playing, but in terms of overall program impact, that's a major shift in favor of Texas.
Yeah, I like Casey Thompson transferred, correct?
Yeah.
So who's still there?
Where did he go to TCU? Sorry.
Hudson Card might be there still. Yeah, I don't know. I think Ewers beats them out. Either way, I think Ewers ends up as the starting QB at some point during the season. Yeah, but I mean Ewers is good. I hope he's going to be good. I hope he sucks. I hope he sucks. Whatever. But yeah, no, that's probably the biggest recruit Texas has gotten. And Texas didn't even really get him. But it's the biggest recruit Texas has gotten in a while, which is good for the program, I guess. All right. Next year's Heisman odds, I'll just run through them real quick. Bryce Young plus 200, CJ Stroud plus 400, Caleb Williams plus 1,000, Trevor Henderson plus 1,200, Spencer Rattler plus 1,500, Will Anderson Jr. plus 4,000. I have a pick in a sleeper. I think everyone's going to focus on the Ohio State passing attack next year, and I think this is where they start using TreVeyon Henderson in the ways that we saw Zeke Elliott be used when he was here. I think TreVeyon Henderson will end up having a better career than Zeke. I don't know if he will have a national championship, but I like Henderson next year a lot. I think we've moved the award around enough now that it's time to give it back to running backs. It's been going to quarterbacks a lot and receivers too. So, what about you, Matthew? My sleeper. Sorry. I hope I didn't take yours, Matthew, because we've talked about him. Will Rogers at Mississippi State. His name's not Mike Gundy. It's a Mike Leach coach team. Yeah, Mike Leach, right? Yeah, I did. Yeah, Mike Gundy's at Oklahoma State. I almost said Mike Gundy though. Mike Leach coach team. They're going to put up points, you think. And he already had a pretty damn good year this year. So I like Will Rogers a lot next year. That also means that Mississippi State has to stay alive for like her first half of the season. So we'll see about that. What about you, Matthew?
Okay, you go. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, you're good. So
know your own names, goddammit.
For my straight pick for my straight up pick for Heisman, I have CJ Stroud. When that defense gets better and Ohio State starts rolling teams again, more people are going to care about what CJ Stroud's been doing. But for my sleeper, I've got the most exciting player in college football, AR-15, Anthony Richardson for the Florida Gators. He took a grand total of maybe like 20 snaps this season, and like 8 of them were crazy and 12 of them sucked. But if we can tap into what made those 8 snaps crazy, I think Anthony Richardson could be the best player in college football next year.
Yeah, I haven't brought it up. How is the quarterback situation going to play out down in Florida? Like, because Emory Jones is still there, right?
Yeah, so Emory Jones was going to transfer and just hasn't, and I guess most people are assuming that he won't. Obviously, Jack Miller from Ohio State transferred down. But I think right now the rumbling is probably Anthony Richardson starting next season.
I will say this about Florida. I think they need to just make their decision at quarterback before the season, and no matter really what happens, unless it's an injury, you stick with the guy through the rest of the year, and you see what you see. And Florida also just got a running back in the transfer portal from Louisiana. I can't think of his name. I don't know him.
Montreal Johnson.
Yeah, he came with Billy Napier. But yeah, I like those. But I actually don't like those because you kept saying when the Ohio State defense gets better. I don't know that it's going to get better, so we'll see. Matt.
So my pick was also CJ Stroud. And then my sleeper, which I don't think anyone's really talked about him, but I have Max Johnson at A&M. I think he'll start this year, and then it'll be Weigman's job for true freshman. But yeah, I think Max Johnson's going to have a monster year for A&M next year. A&M's got a lot of recruits, a lot of momentum going their way. I think they'll be even better next year.
What if Caleb Williams transfers to Texas A&M?
Then I have Muffed the Punt.
I like that. That's nice. Not nice. But no, like seriously, how good would Texas A&M be with Caleb Williams?
Yeah, unbelievable.
I still don't understand how he's getting all these recruits. He's got to have so much money. All right. And before we give our lasting memories, let's do our top 10s for next year. If you guys have them. Mine is somewhere. But Matt, let's start with you.
All right. Number 1, I got Bama. Number 2, I got Ohio State. 3, Georgia. 4, A&M. 5, Clemson. 6, Michigan. 7, Notre Dame. 8, Utah. 9, Baylor. 10, Oklahoma State.
Okay. Matthew.
So I've got 1 Bama, 2 Ohio State, and 3 Georgia, same as Matt here. And then I've got Baylor at 4, Cincinnati at 5. Number 6 is Michigan. Number 7 is A&M. Number 8 is Notre Dame. 9 is Michigan State, and 10 as Oregon.
Okay. All right. All right. Mine's the same as yours. 1, 2, 3, Bama, OSU, Georgia. Then I got A&M, Notre Dame, Baylor, Michigan, Oklahoma State. How many is that? 9?
8, I think.
Utah is going to be 10. I can't remember what I put 9 then.
Clemson, I think you might.
Yeah, maybe Clemson. Whatever. Yeah, Clemson. We'll go Clemson number 9. But I do think Utah is going to be good next year. I think that Cameron Rising or whatever his name is, he's good. So it'll be interesting. And I think something that we all can probably hopefully look forward to next year is, or at least hopefully, like I said, the West Coast coming back a little bit. Like college football is just better when the South is the South, the North is the Big Ten, and then the West is the Pac-12. It's awesome. It should be. It will be good in the long run, hopefully, to have USC better. And maybe Oregon be better, but everyone just keeps leaving Oregon. What do you think about Dan Lanning going to Oregon, Matthew? I don't know if we talked about it. The Georgia defensive coordinator going to
me, Matthew.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just making sure. Yeah,
he's Matt.
I know. I'm just making sure. I like the hire. I don't want to say they totally knocked it out of the park, but there's reason to be excited.
If he can recruit out west, and obviously he knows how to build a good defense. Oregon Oregon's it's more fun when Oregon's good too. Like the jerseys, except they should limit the jerseys. I think they should have like a rule about it. I don't know that when like the highlighter yellow every day at like noon on Saturday. I don't need it.
Yeah.
All right. All right. And then for the last thing here, lasting memory, whether it be a play, a game, crowd reaction, just what will you remember most about the 2021-2022 college football season? Matt, I'll start with you.
I had the Red River Showdown written down, the Oklahoma comeback. A&M was my runner-up, that upset. I still remember. I'll always remember where I was at during that one because everyone hates Bama in Tennessee. So.
That's true. They do have the oldest rivalry in the South, Alabama and Tennessee. Matthew.
I'll let y'all know ahead of time. Mine isn't actually football. But week 1 at Wisconsin, jump around, that was just incredible to see. It really felt like football was back from COVID and all. We got full stadium, and it was the perfect way to get right back into it. And I saw the Inter Sandman at Virginia Tech, and that was awesome too. But I was watching the Wisconsin game when I saw jump around, and so that's my pick.
Mine is very similar to yours, Matthew. When Penn State and James Franklin came out to the first whiteout back in College Station, it finally felt like after a long, almost year and a half, college football was back, and it was awesome. So I always, even though I don't really like James Franklin or Penn State, I just remember them coming out into what had to be one of the wildest crowds this year, at least. So, all right, guys, that pretty much wraps up today's show. Like I said, I think we're going to plan on doing a mock next week. I will figure out how to do the picks, but we'll do our mock next week, and obviously we'll open it up with some, transfer portal stuff. Hopefully, we'll know where Caleb Williams and Jackson Dart are by this time next week. If we don't, then they might just quit football. Who knows? But guys, it was a great season. I look forward to the off season to keep talking about football because I don't want to talk about baseball or basketball. Really, I'll talk about the Cavs because the Cavs are good, but other than that, so it was a great season. Hope you boys have fun. And to send us away, here is the final standings for the Pick'em. Shoot. Dang it. I don't know how to.
This isn't looking good for either of us.
Whatever. Okay, whatever. I can read mine. I can read it. All right, I'm taking it off. Sorry. I don't know why I put it in as a background. I won. I went 47, 42, and 2. Matthew, you came in second. Perfectly 500, 46, 46, and 1. And Matt, who by far had the best bowl record by far after you started out horribly, you did finish last, 45 and 47. But you guys did a good job. Send me a link of some Florida or something that you guys want. Something.
You had 47, I had 46, and he had 45. That's how close we were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told you we were close. When we went into the bowl season, it was actually a little bit more spread apart. I'm not kidding. There was that first day where me and Matthew just faded you, Matt, and we got out to a hot start.
Championship weekend was rough for me too.
But I think like the last 10 bowl games, I think you got 8 or 9 of them right. I think you ended up like 11 or like 10 and 6 or 11 and 6, something like that. Matt, you went 500 in bowl season. I was by far the worst. I think I went like 8 and 11 or something. So, but yeah, we were close all year. It really did come down to it. I'll get you guys something. Just send me something, or I don't know. I'll get you guys something. It was a good year, so you guys deserve something. But neither one of you beat me, so I just want to make that clear. We'll try again next year, I guess. We'll see. But fellas, Matt, we're happy you're back and hopefully healthy. Hopefully everyone else can stay healthy and go into the new year, have a good new year. There's no more football on. I don't know what I'm going to do. But any last words, any last thoughts on the end of the season, guys? If not, we will see you next week. Matt.
It was fun. Happy to be back 100%, and can't wait for next week. Draft season time.
This is Matt. This is Matt's shining. This is Matt's. He's walking down the red carpet this month. So, Matthew, what about you?
Great season. Scared money don't make money. Go Gators.
Yeah. All right, let's rock.